Hello, everybody. It's good to see you all. Um, how's everyone doing? Is everyone having fun or about to murder their families or chilling or how's quarantine going, everybody? As always, you can comment on Facebook, Periscope, and YouTube, and I will see your comments and be able to respond to them in real time. Um, so, we have several things on the docket today. I want to share some relatively positive COVID-19 news, and then we're going to go into some how the stimulus package is a masterclass in failed policy, and then we're going to go into the sexual assault and sexual harassment allegations against Biden that have been long-standing and how they've come back up recently. So today's docket is pretty full. As always, you can comment or call in live. If you call in live, state your name and a brief summary of what you want to talk about, and it'll patch you through and I can answer it, and you can join the live stream live, which is pretty awesome. Now, let's see here. We're gonna start by reminding everyone that the Democratic presidential nomination race is nowhere near over. As of March 18th, 2020, up there is what the math still looked like. Either candidate needs a 51% of this pie in order to take the nomination free and clear, well, really win it free and clear without having the superdelegates take it and pervert it and anoint someone. So that is the delegate math. As you can see, both candidates still have a shot. I believe Bernie does have a stronger shot in the post-COVID-19 world, but that's my personal opinion. I'm going to go ahead and hide the delegate math for now, and we're going to move on to our little bit more light-hearted or just plain weird COVID-19 news. So there was a man in New Hampshire, Manchester, New Hampshire to be precise, who has been accused of grabbing a 76-meter or 2.5-foot long sword and chasing after another man who asked the first man to turn down his music. A man knocked on the door of Benjamin Leyland, aged 47, on Monday, according to police. Leyland reportedly became upset, grabbed the sword, chased the man down a hall. Luckily, the man that knocked got away with no injuries. So that's just funny, especially because no one was hurt. Now, in other news, I don't know about you, but it would be kind of weird to date right now, I think. Like, this would be the weirdest time to date, right? Like, I don't know. It just social distancing. You can't go to the movies. You can barely go to the grocery store. If you're driving, a cop's going to pull you over to figure out what the heck you're doing. And if you've got shelter-in-place orders, like, now would be a really, really weird time to date. And yet, there is a quarantine-focused dating app. You heard me right. There is a quarantine-focused dating app. It is called Quarantine Together, everybody. It is called Quarantine Together. That is what it is called. And I, for one, think it's hilarious that there is a dating app just for this situation. Let's see, what else do I have for funny news? Well, actually, let's focus on the quarantine app for a little bit longer. It was designed by Daniel Ahmadizadeh and Christopher Smeater. Quote, people need to stay home and people will be lonely when they stay at home. End quote, Ahmadizadeh said. He bought a domain name on March 8th and the website and app launched on March 15th. Quote, we wanted to build something that is great for others but for our selfish purposes so we don't get bored. I watch basketball when I get home, but that's not on. End quote. Also by Daniel Ahmad Dizadeh. But as this crisis becomes seriously, this app's opportunity is going to become stronger and stronger and stronger. If you just think about it, it really is. Give me just a second, everybody. Pulling up some other news. So here's some more light COVID news. During the lockdown, a local artist in Berkeley has been, because Berkeley has been sheltering in place for more than 2 weeks. There's an artist, Rigel Stewmiller, RigelStewmiller.com. I can put that link in the chat if anybody wants to check out this artist's work. Who is known for lovely nature drawings, is offering classes, like live seminars on how to draw, which is kind of cool. So that's that for the what you want to call it, the light and funny COVID news I have. Up next is about federal policy. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi said that House members are in the information gathering stage of a fourth COVID-19 bill to respond to it, but it could be several weeks before the lower chamber takes up legislation. She's insisting she will not be tested for the virus even after another member of the House who attended events with her on Friday is presumed to have it. Quote, I would not suspect we would have any bipartisan legislation before we return after Easter and Passover, but we are getting ready, end quote, Pelosi told reporters during a call on Monday. So that's fun. The House also extended their time off to April 20th, which is also, I guess, fun, if you will. Kind of, sort of, not really. But, you know, whatever. They're giving themselves more time off while failing the American people at the same time. It's what we're used to. Always remember, if you comment on my personal Facebook live stream, through YouTube, or through Periscope on Twitter, I will see your comments, and so will everyone else, and you can engage in the conversation. This does not have to be a monologue, everybody. Please, please engage. I live off your comments, okay? I really do. I really, really do. I live off your comments. Really, really do, guys. So, up next in our news, I want to speak a little bit about the $1,200 stimulus checks. First of all, if you're a college student and your parents claim you on their taxes, you're not getting one. Full stop. And that's just stupid. It's another example of means testing that just hurts the most, disproportionately hurts the most people who need it the most. So it's just disgusting, really. Anyways, so there's that. There's also that it only goes to some people. So for those who don't know what means testing is, it's what the name implies, where a social program is only applicable to you after they test your means. It's a way of pretending to offer help while disproportionately disenfranchising those who are already most disenfranchised and oppressed. It's a really cruel type of policy, especially compared to universality. And here's an example of a universal bill that would have been amazing, and would have added nothing to the national debt and is a perfect example of how modern monetary theory and how our federal government, who is sovereign over its own money, actually operates. And it's the Automatic Boost to Communities Act, authored and sponsored by Rashida Tlaib, would mint two $1 trillion coins, and those two coins would pay for a $2,000 one-time stimulus on a prepaid debit card, followed by $1,000 a month for an entire year after the coronavirus is over, to every human being living in the United States of America. Fully universal. Child, woman, man, non-binary person alike would get this stimulus. And that is the kind of forward-thinking, shattering the glass ceiling, visionary leadership we need. And it's coming from Representative Rashida Tlaib. But the House is very likely never going to pass that. The Senate is even more likely never going to pass that, despite it being exactly what we need. And I want to say something to those who are really like, oh my gosh, $1,200 doesn't do anything. You're right, it doesn't really do anything, does it? But guess where they got that number from? Anyone want to guess? I'll wait a second for a comment. Do 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 do. Have some Jeopardy music. Nobody's commenting? Okay. So we got that stimulus amount of $1,200 by rounding up a month's worth of wages on federal minimum wage before tax. That's where our federal legislatures got those crumbs from. So when everyone's complaining about how $1,200 is in the month, remember, a lot of us deem certain jobs worthy of only $1,200 a month because it's the minimum wage, and the minimum wage hasn't been raised in over a decade. So, and a $15 minimum wage is so 2016. In my opinion, $22 an hour tied to regional cost of living and inflation. That should be the minimum wage. That would be a living wage in the majority of areas. Because the minimum wage was always meant to be a living wage, not a, oh, you're starving, but a dignified life wage. Bare minimum, just for being a human being who works. And our social safety net was supposed to take care of those who can't work. Ergo, the minimum wage is long overdue of an update, and I think it should be about $22 an hour with increases tied to regional cost of living and inflation, so it never stagnates again. We're living in an era of unprecedented productivity, and yet wages have been stagnant for 40, even 50 years. So stagnant, in fact, that today's average worker makes less than the average worker did in the 70s when in real dollars, in real wages. And so what we're seeing is neoliberalism, which is a merger of state and corporate power, that austerity for everyone except for the 1%, and a form of all the money going to them. Neoliberalism is cutting all social welfare programs, all social... yes, Katie Atchison, you're right, it was minimum wage. All social safety nets, imposing austerity, and then giving all the money to the already inordinately rich and powerful, to the oligarchic class. That's what neoliberalism does. And neoliberalism radicalizes people. There's no question about it. It'll either radicalize a person to the far, or as they like to be called, the alt-right, or it'll radicalize people to the progressive left. And we need it to radicalize people to the progressive left, because we need people to always evolve towards love and inclusion, which means going left, not right. We don't need more people getting radicalized towards fear and hatred and ignorance, and that's what happens if they get radicalized to the right. In other news, the number of anti-LGBTQIA plus hate groups has soared by 43% last year. In 2018, there were 49 anti-LGBTQIA plus hate groups. In 2019, there were 70, according to a recent report from the Southern Poverty Law Center. The SPLC found the surge in anti-LGBT groups occurred amid an overall decrease in hate group last year's, which dropped to 940 from an all-time high of 1020 in 2018. The report said the surge was, quote, possibly fueled by continued anti-LGBTQ sentiment and policy emanating from governmentally officials, end quote, and this report largely attributed it to the Trump administration. Quote, anti-LGBTQ groups have become intertwined with the Trump administration, and after years of civil rights progress and growing acceptance among the broader American public, anti-LGBTQ sentiment within the Republican Party is rising. Though Trump promised during his campaign to be a real friend to the LGBTQ community, he has fully embraced anti-LGBTQ hate groups and their agenda of dismantling federal protections and resources for LGBTQ people, end quote. This is all stated by that report from the Southern Poverty Law Center. I want to go over the allegations of sexual assault and sexual misconduct or harassment against Joe Biden. In total, there are 8 women who have come forward against Joe Biden over the years. In addition to all the publicly available evidence of Joe Biden groping and even fondling or humping little girls. So Alexandra Tara Reid, who worked at Biden's Senate office in 1993, told the Union that the Biden would, quote, put his hand on my shoulder and run his finger up my, quote, on my neck, end quote. She also released her full story of when Joe Biden raped her. I won't go into the details because I don't want to trigger the PTSD of any survivors, but suffice it to say, he forcibly penetrated her with his hands and then discarded her and told her she was nothing. And I'll leave it at that because the details are available on the internet for those who need to know. Look up Katie Halper's tweets or Alexandra Tara Reid's tweets if you really need to know the full story. And it's just disgusting and abhorrent and evil, and I'm going to try to move on now because it's very bad stuff. DJ Hill told the Times that at a 2012 fundraising event in Minneapolis, Biden rested his hand on her shoulder and began moving it down her back. Caitlin Caruso told the New York Times that after she shared her story of sexual assault at a University of Nevada event in 2016, Biden hugged her, quote, just a little bit too long, end quote, and put his hand on her thigh. Sophie Karasik was photographed holding hands and touching foreheads with Biden at the 2016 Academy Awards. Many people saw this as a powerful moment, but Karasik felt that Biden had violated her personal space and gone too far. In May 2019, Biden told a 10-year-old girl, "I bet you're as bright as you are good-looking." In June 2019, Biden told the brothers of a 13-year-old girl to, quote, keep the guys away, end quote, from her. So this is a well-documented example of Biden having sexual predation and inappropriate tendencies at the very minimum. This concrete example of this. So again, please call in, comment, chat, whatever you want to do to keep the conversation going. We're usually live until 6, but don't feel obligated to watch the whole thing. I'd love it if you did. While we're in between news updates, I do want to remind everyone that the next $750 we receive in donations will go to direct manufacturing of masks for medical professionals. Now, we were going to purchase the materials and manufacture them ourselves, but I am a member of the Medical Workers and Doctors for Bernie group, and they have found a supplier that is willing to supply masks in large quantities at about $2 per, let me double check how many masks that is. Might only be one mask, but it's still a good price. They're going to direct ship them to hospitals in the most need. So that $750 actually won't go to us now. It will go to the Doctors for Bernie fundraising effort I just mentioned. We wanted to do some direct manufacturing and donating to local Utah hospitals. And if we get enough in donations, we still will. But right now we're transferring our fundraising drive from direct manufacturing to paying for an FDA certified manufacturer to ship that can ship 1.5 million masks daily. The masks are $2 each, which is a fraction of what hospitals and public health departments are paying. And they can be tailored in quantity to suit local American needs. So that's the Masks for America program. If you'd rather donate directly to them rather than donating to us and having us send them lump sums, you can look them up at Masks for America on Twitter and Facebook.com/Masks for America. In both cases, that's a number 4, not the word 4. So that's a great way to do some mutual aid right now. Yeah, that's a great way to keep everything going. Okay. So, in other news, I mentioned this briefly on our last show, but I want to mention it again, is Boris Johnson, known as the UK's Trump, current Prime Minister of the UK, has tested positive for COVID-19. Check here. $806 cases of COVID-19 as of Monday in Utah, with more deaths. Let's see how many deaths here. 4 deaths so far in Utah. Polygamy is essentially decriminalized in Utah under a bill signed into law, so that's a win for the polyamorous community. So that's cool. I know a lot of people have a lot of really personal feelings about that, but that is a win for the polyamorous community. Harmon's stores are giving out free digital thermometers in local Utah locations, and an anonymous donator gave them 3,300 approved digital thermometers for families who need them. So if you need a thermometer to monitor your family, go to Harmon's. They should have one for you. Let's see what else. Pelosi is saying that Trump's downplaying of coronavirus has cost American lives. She's not wrong. New York State has surpassed 1,000 deaths. Former Nick star Stephen Marbury is trying to help New York buy 10 million low-cost N95 masks, which is cool. But we shouldn't have to rely on the charity of the rich in times of crisis. Our government should already be organized and set up around the needs of the many, and not just to enhance the power of capital in such a way that it doesn't know how to handle a people-first crisis, which all crises are. The Fed has estimated that coronavirus job losses could total at least 47 million, and the unemployment rate may hit 32%, which is... I don't even have words for that one, guys. I really don't. Wuhan residents are purportedly dismissing the official coronavirus death toll, saying that the incinerators have been working around the clock. So that's interesting. That Wuhan's own people think that, their own nation's accounts are. Joe Biden is becoming increasingly irrelevant. I'm sorry to say it, but it's true. He's proven he can't lead during a true national crisis right now in real time. He was hiding for nearly 10 days after the debates, and personally, I think he might be out of money. He spent near $12 million on ad buys for March 10th and March 17th, and as of February FEC reporting, he only had 12 million and like 98,000 on hand. So depending on how his fundraising did in March, which we won't know for a few more days, he very well could be out of direct money for his direct campaign. Obviously, he's got at least a few super PACs helping him, or at least one. I think he's actually got a few helping him. So obviously, he's not in like deep trouble, but he is running low on cash. Just looking at the raw data, again, depending on how well he fundraised in March. He's had nearly $2 million in refunds, in campaign contribution refunds that he's had to disperse over the cycle, which usually happens from a lack of a reversal of support for a candidate. I know that when I stopped supporting Elizabeth Warren and Pete Buttigieg after they proved they weren't progressive, I asked for refunds. So that's just an example. If that helps anybody out with trying to figure out why would you want a refund? Well, that could be a why. That could be a why. As always, you can chat with me via YouTube, via the original post on my personal timeline. You'll have to click into it if it's been shared to you in a group. Or via Periscope, which is Twitter. I will see your comments and we can keep the conversation going. We really can, which would be great. Again, Biden is refusing to debate Bernie again, which makes you think that Biden is afraid of Bernie. Trump has called Biden mentally weak and said he'd love to run against Biden because he likes running against those who are mentally weak or something to that effect. Let me see if I can find this new ad that's pretty good, actually. It's a pretty good ad, and it shows the footage of Donald Trump saying that, which is why I want to share it with everybody. So give me just a moment, and I will try to pull it up for everybody. And while I'm pulling that up, I want to be very clear. The lesser of two evils, voting, is what got us here, and there is no such thing as the lesser of two rapists. Both Joe Biden and Donald Trump have been incredibly accused of rape. And yet, somehow Joe Biden isn't disqualified pending an investigation. More liberal hypocrisy, if you ask me, but I'm trying to pull up this video for y'all because I know you're gonna like it. Aha! Found it! Trump would love to run against Biden. If you don't believe me, watch this video. Ready, everybody? Y'all ready? You're right, Jeff. We are entering the dark days with this, and only together will we get through it. You all ready for this video now? I am. Let's do it. Let's do it. Ready? Set. Oops. Now, for real and for true, Ready, set, play.
I don't see Joe Biden as a threat. I think he's only a threat to himself.
I never heard say, if you go back and look what I said and didn't say, I don't think I treated her badly.
It is appropriate to ask Professor Hill anything any member wishes to ask her to plumb the depths of her credibility.
Our goal must be to do everything we can to make it easier for women to come forward.
How did you get home? I don't remember. How'd you get there? I don't remember. Where is the place? I don't remember. How many years ago was it? I don't know.
It sends the message that they will not be believed, they will be dismissed, and the most powerful person in this country will mock them.
The establishment is now putting all of their eggs in the Biden basket. How's that going to go?
When I marched in the civil rights movement, I marched with tens of thousands of others to change attitudes.
When I was about the age of the guy standing over there, I got involved in the civil rights movement. You know, when I was a teenager in Delaware, for real, I got involved in the civil rights movement.
I was not an activist. I worked at an all-black swimming pool in the east side of Wilmington, Delaware. I was involved in what they were thinking, what they were feeling. I was involved, but I was not out marching. I was not down in Selma. I was not anywhere else.
More than once, advisors had gently reminded Mr. Biden of the problem with this formulation. He had not actually marched during the civil rights movement, and more than once, Mr. Biden assured them that he understood, kept telling the story anyway. That is really, really weird.
Whether or not busing serves is A, required constitutionally, and B, has a utilitarian value for desegregation, I come down on the side of A, it is not constitutionally required, and B, it is not a useful tool.
You know, there was a little girl in California who was part of the second class to integrate her public schools, and she was bused to school every day. And that little girl was me.
54 years ago, you were in the front lines of trying to desegregate school housing at the University of Chicago. You were even arrested.
The Congress on Racial Equality, CORE, and there was a great group. We got involved in trying to desegregate housing owned by the University of Chicago. Injustice is something that I have always fought throughout my life.
Bernie was a protester, he was an activist, he was an organizer, and he is literally the only person in the United States Senate with this story.
When I go on Fox, what I will say is, look, many of you voted for Donald Trump, but he lied to you. He told you he was going to provide health care for everybody, yet his policies are to throw 30 million people off of the health insurance they have. He told you he wasn't going to cut Medicare and Medicaid. He lied to you. Massive cuts in his budget for Medicare and Medicaid. Working people need to know the truth, and that is that Donald Trump betrayed them, lied to them, and I intend to do that.
Had she picked Bernie Sanders, it would have been tougher. But the only one I didn't want her to pick, because of trade, because he's a big trade guy. You know, he basically says we're getting screwed on trade, and he's right. Joe Biden made a deal. NAFTA, he approved it. He was pushing it. It's the worst trade deal ever made.
I voted for NAFTA. NAFTA in my state created more jobs than it lost jobs.
NAFTA may be a good deal for the people who own our corporations, but it is a bad deal for American workers, for our family farmers, and it is bad for the environment.
Today, we're finally ending the NAFTA nightmare and signing into law the brand new U.S.-Mexico-Canada agreement. Very special.
While NAFTA has led to the loss of nearly 1 million American jobs, this agreement does virtually nothing to stop the outsourcing of jobs to Mexico.
I'd rather run against, I think, Biden than anybody. I think he's the weakest mentally. And I like running against people that are weak mentally. I think Joe is the weakest up here.
So there you have it. I think this is very important. I think we have to get the word out because this is dangerous. We're playing with fire. And if Joe Biden gets the Democratic nomination, look out, because there's an overwhelmingly high chance that Donald Trump gets another 4 years.
And let us create a government and an economy that works for all of us, not just the 1%. Thank you very much.
revealing, wasn't that? I don't know, I think it was pretty revealing. So, let's see here. So I do want to briefly mention that we did run an article yesterday on wolfoflightnews.com regarding Joe Biden, his what we call Joe Biden's plateau, actually. And just to briefly go over it, feel free to read the whole thing. It goes over his lack of money, his the women who have accused him, the and kind of how this race isn't yet over. I would highly recommend you all take the time. It's only a few minute read to go and read that. It's a let's see actually what my reading calculator says, so I can tell exactly everybody. It's supposed to be about a 4.5 minute to 5 minute read. So if y'all want to read that, it's at our website of wolfoflightnews.com. I'd always suggest that. I also highly recommend our recent article by contributor Grace Davis, who wrote an article on how Bernie Sanders versus Joe Biden is a progressive versus regressive fight. Grace does really good work for us, and I think everybody should be reading her articles as well. And I want to remind everyone that Wolf of Light News, your donation money when we're done with our pledge and any ad revenue we get does go directly to all our contributors. We do participate in direct profit sharing. So we are a progressive platform, not only in name, but in deed as well. At the end of each month, based on the revenue coming in, I send equal shares to all of our contributors for their great assistance in making our platform happen. So, and we plan to do that for the life of Wolf of Light News, regardless of how big or small we get or remain. And you're right, Katie. Joe Biden should be afraid of Bernie. Everybody should be afraid of Bernie. You can't go against Bernie, honestly. They've tried pretty much every smear in the book. And this is what happens when we do movement-based politics. Movement-based politics means it's not all about Bernie. It's about the people behind him, the movement. Whereas identity-based politics is all about that candidate and their identity, and it's not about policy or how it helps people in this country. It's about, do they check the identity quotient, and do they, on surface appearances, seem more polite or more polished or have a better personality than the opposing team. And so identity politics makes it a horse jockey race, whereas movement-based politics makes it a vessel for real change and real help for all Americans. And that is what we need. We need real help for all Americans, and we need everybody, especially the oligarchic capitalist class, to be paying their fair share in taxes. With the lack of comments, if we don't get any comments soon, please give us comments. I live off comments. I love to respond to my viewers. Please keep commenting, keep watching. But if we don't get any comments soon, we may go offline a little bit early. And I want to thank everybody so far for watching. Please remember to subscribe to us on YouTube, follow us on Twitter and on Facebook, and you can follow me personally on Twitter. All that information is on the right hand side of your screen, and I'd love to hear from you guys. If you guys have any tips for news stories, you can submit those in the Ask a Question section of our website, or by calling them in to 385-715-NEWS, and just say your name and that you have a tip, and we'll send you to our voicemail box for tips, and that way we can keep the journalism going, keep it active. And please, when you're not strapped if you have the resources, even $1 helps us keep the servers alive. It helps us keep this platform running and helps us keep everything going. So let me exit out of this. Go back in here. I want to pull up some more news. So just a brief highlight here. Brief highlight to end our broadcast. So there's a quarantine love story in New York. This guy flies his number to somebody he's interested in with a drone. 2 tables with white tablecloths, wine and matching microwavable dinners, and FaceTime compliments in terms of a date. I'm going to see if I can find the video to show y'all, because I think it's cute. And I also want everybody to know we are changing the regular time of our shows. Through now, we've been broadcasting at 5 p.m. Mountain Time. I'm moving that to 7 p.m. Mountain Time after tonight. And we do broadcast every day. So Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. We take weekends off. But we do have a broadcast that's usually about an hour long for viewer participation and to go over current events. We're just moving it to 7 p.m. Mountain, which is 9 p.m. Eastern, which is, I don't know about the other time zones, but 7 p.m. Mountain Time. We're not in Arizona, so it's regular Mountain Time, whether it's daylight savings or not. It's just Mountain Time. It's Denver and Salt Lake City time. And we'll be going live at 7 p.m. from now on. So for our regular viewers and new viewers, please continue to watch us at 7 p.m. We really love to see you guys and hear from you guys and gals and folks. So thank you everybody for watching, and I think we're going to go offline a little bit early today, but thank you all for watching so much, and please remember to like, follow, and subscribe to us. Have a great day, y'all.